So the chair is here. Now I'm just waiting for the TV stand. It comes on Monday. I really like this desk. I like this computer, and the chair. The chair is super comfortable, you know. And this morning, the locksmith showed up. So he gave me a new lock here. So he fixed this. This was like broken. So he put the new in, and he changed the lock. So now you see I have a key. So I can just walk from my parking lot here. And it's cool that he made and he changed the lock on the front door. And it's cool. I was, you know, since the locks are so similar, I was thinking, how do I differentiate the keys? And I thought I would put a tape on one, you know. And the guy says they are the same. So he programmed it, you know, to be open with the same key. And what he did actually with that one, with the front door, he didn't replace the lock. He just took it to his van and he rekeyed it. You know, I didn't even know that that's what they do. I thought he would be giving me a new lock, but he only brought a new lock for this, because this one, of course, is it's not a real lock. So that's my view. That's what I'm looking at here. That's my YouTube channel. So now I'm gonna add the name of my company at the top. So I just spent probably an hour. I went to the registry. No, I downloaded the form online, you know, how to register your I was thinking of corporation, but I never had a corporation, and I think they're a pain to deal with, so I just decided to go with a sole proprietorship again, especially since I don't really need it, since chances are I'll be working as a sub-agent, right? So a sub-agent for an agent who works for a big brokerage company here in Alberta, because I tried to get hired directly as an agent, but because I don't have a book of business, right? I don't have clients, and I don't have experience as a broker or agent. They didn't want to hire me. They said, you know, if you want, just get started with my friend as a sub-agent. And so the name I just registered will only be used as on the contract between my friend and me, but otherwise I'll be just acting on behalf of this large brokerage. And he just gave me a little exercise. He has a load, a farmer bought something from overseas, and the machinery. And I told the guy, I said, I only want to do machinery and equipment. It doesn't matter if it's a step deck, double drop, or flatbed, but it has to be machinery and equipment. So that's my specialization. And so he gave me this cute little machine. And of course, you know, you start thinking as a broker, and right away, when I sent a message to a couple of carriers I know, and because he asked me to kind of like, you know, see what I can do. And I said, well, I know I don't even have to go to the load board. I know these 5 or 6 carriers that might be interested. But of course, the problem with this load, first of all, it's loading in California. And second problem is that it requires a bond. And problem number 3, it's only just under 18,000 pounds. And problem number 4, it goes into Canada, right? And so out of those 6 people I emailed, I think 3 or 4 of them are Americans, and Americans quite often don't want to go into Canada, right? And then a lot of them don't want to go into California, and then still other side, they don't do bonds. Like if this was me, right? If somebody approached me with this load, first off, I'm not registered in California as a carrier because you need to do inspection, right? And then I don't have a bond. Okay, I can get a bond back then, right? So it was like $450 US. And for me as a carrier, it's like kind of interesting, you look at this as a broker, and then what if I was asked to do this as a carrier? So for me as a carrier, I never liked such light loads, like 18,000 pounds. It's like 24 feet long, basically legal width, and 8 feet tall. So basically, usually when it's like this, right, all legal and it's light, people don't want to pay a lot of money, right? And especially from California with a bond into Canada. So basically as a broker now, or agent, or sub-agent, now I'll be facing different type of challenges that I was facing as a carrier. But I was looking at my phone, trying to find carriers I can email that quote request to. And I remember when I was selling the trailer, I said there was a guy asking me to sell him the trailer, whereas it was on the same day when I already had the buyer coming with a bank draft. And so I said, I cannot just tell the guy to disappear, because we're already at the stage where he's coming with the money. With you, with all due respect, I don't know, right? So you say you're serious, but I don't have the money. This guy is coming. And so I had to say no to this guy, but he's a Canadian carrier, and that's why he was looking for a 60-ton trailer. So they do all kinds of heavy haul, oversized, over-dimensional, And so I remember that he told me that, if you ever start doing this freight brokerage, just keep us in mind, because, we'll be happy to work with you, right? And so that's the thing, what I'm going to do on the weekend now. I'm going to go and look through all my records for the loads, because I kept everything. I can go, let's say, November 2017, and I can see what loads I hold, who was it for, who was the broker, who was the shipper. I can see my bill of lading. So hopefully I got my notebook here. So I'm gonna start writing some names, some potential shippers, because usually they don't like it when you start bugging people that are like fresh loads. But I think if I go 2-3 years back, it should be okay. Like, I think I can approach those people. And so yeah, other than that, so I still have to buy a regular bed. And the weather today was, like yesterday was -13, very cold, and today it's +1, like 33, 34 F. Like here in Calgary, I find that the weather is like this because of the mountains. If there's wind coming from the mountains, you have one type of weather. The wind stops, right away the weather changes. And so of course it's imperative to dress appropriately, right? And it can be very slippery, just like one guy wrote in the comments, and I find that to be true, that here in Calgary they don't pay too much attention to secondary roads. After a big snowstorm, they only clean up major roads, like interstate or freeway, like Highway 2, and then some major, 4-lane local roads. But regular roads, you cannot even get out of the parking lot, right? I saw quite a few people getting stuck right here in the Condo parking lot. And so I already, I changed my addresses everywhere with all my financial institutions, and I checked with the Condo Corporation, and they're gonna set me up with a buzzer code. And the way this thing here works is that when there's like a little pad with the numbers there, I think that's how it works. So when they punch in your room number, the phone rings, my phone rings, and I set up, I have a website where I can go, let's say when I changed the car, right? So I went to that website and I said, okay, Sergei Dratchev, unit so-and-so, the car. I still had Dodge Charger, so I changed it to Ram 1500 for a month. And it's so tight in there. Actually, I saw a guy, he was kind of like struggling to get into his blue Honda Civic, and he was just scraping off the ice, and I opened the door. I said, hey neighbor, he said, just a heads up, I see that you struggled, because I was struggling when there was a pickup truck parked in there. I couldn't even get out through the driver's door, right? I had to climb over to the passenger side, because here was a car and it's much smaller. And so I see, like, when he opens the door, it's like, I don't know, I wish these, parking stalls were a bit wider, because it's just a Ram truck and it already makes life difficult for people next to you. And so when I opened the door, I talked to him. I said, hey, good news for you. I said, this is just a rental. It should be gone in a month. And then I said, I'm getting an expensive car, so I'm not going to park it here for the winter. For the winter, it's going to be in the garage. And so I said, this whole winter, it'll be very easy for you to get in and out of your car. And the guy says, okay. And now about the car, I went online just out of curiosity, because I was pretty sure the dealership would post my car at Auto Trader. And somebody left a comment saying that he actually called the dealer because he wanted to buy my car, but he said they want $51,000. But actually that's what I had it listed for when I was trying to sell it privately before I did the inspection and before I got the Alberta plate. I think I wanted $51,000. But now I went to Auto Trader and I put in Dodge Charger, put in my postal code, zip code, RT, V8, and there's 4 cars, and mine was like number 1. I posted this in the community section. There's a link there if you want to see. So of course they detailed everything. It looks super nice, very clean, but I still see they kept my, that V8 and 5.7 stickers that I put on. But now I see they put the dealer sticker on the very back, like under the rear left light. Now there's a name of the dealer who bought this car from me. And so yeah, it's listed for $49,999 Canadian, so pretty much 50,000 Canadian, which is about what? I think it's still 1.3. So it's $38,461 US. Oh, and I was curious to see if they wrote anything about the modifications in the description, and they didn't. It just says a slightly used car with 15,000 kilometers, 9,000 miles, and minor traces of wear and tear. But I don't know, where did they see wear and tear? There's hardly any wear and tear, except of course I fixed that window, and there was a couple of scratches there, right? Maybe that's what they meant, but they wrote minor wear and tear. But I think it's a pretty good car, So that's what's going on. So yeah, on the weekend I'm gonna go through my files and try to find some shippers. And I had that case in Kentucky, right? So it was finally over. And my lawyer is supposed to send me the paperwork. And I'm looking for parking. I had 2 people email me, but it's funny how the guy says, I have a garage, $200 a month. And I said, okay, what kind of facility is it? Is it like commercial garage or private? Like what area are you in? The guy disappears, doesn't answer. And then this morning I got an email asking me, how many vehicles you want to store? And is it just for the winter or for a whole year? Again, I replied, said one car till spring only. No reply from the people. I don't know. So those are the news, right? So still have to buy the bed, and I still have to buy something that I can watch the TV from, right? Because I'm practically sitting on the floor watching TV. So I need to buy some kind of a sofa, probably, in case I have some friends come over. Maybe some kind of a sofa with a little magazine table, but I really like this. This is so comfortable, you know, it's all hydraulic. I mean, has suspension, very nice. So it feels like a truck seat, you know, reminds me of a Kenworth, except it's much wider, it's much more comfortable. And also in the truck, I find that the same as with the car, no, more with the truck, like it starts tilting, you know, like the seat, it starts getting pushed in on one side, because, you know, mostly I was driving in the curb lane, right, with heavy loads and it like this, and then I feel that, you know, my spine was like this. So at least now it's all straight. And this seat has only one handle, just up and down. It doesn't have that unlocking thing, you know, where you can unlock and it just moves a little bit by itself. But very sturdy, you know. This was probably the most complicated thing I had to assemble. Took me probably an hour, because everything was separate. The seat was by itself, the back was by itself, these things were by themselves, you know. So there's a bunch of bolts, but look at this stitching, you know. It's very nice, very soft. I think I deserved a seat like this, thanks to my 17 years in trucking. So I just hope that whatever I learned as a trucker can help me make it as a freight agent or logistics coordinator, as I call myself. So hopefully I'll hear from my buddy lawyer in Kentucky soon, because I asked him to send me the final court's decision, and then we can start dealing with the hiring or onboarding with this next company. But if they don't want to take me, then I'll have just to go on my own and register my MC number, my bond. It'll take much longer to make money, right? I think it's easier to get started, you know, under somebody's colors, so to speak, right? Learn the ropes and then decide if you want to be independent and carry the full responsibility. And of course, one danger with being an independent freight broker is that you can get sued, right? And there was a couple of cases where a freight broker didn't do due diligence when hiring a carrier, and the carrier got into an accident and he hit a guy in a car, and that guy ended up being quadriplegic, basically lost use of his limbs. And so that guy sued the broker, saying that the broker didn't do the due diligence, that this carrier was inexperienced, you know. And so that's why, of course, you know, a lot of people, when they register as brokers, they go with a corporation, because otherwise you can lose your pants, right? And also that shows you how important it is to basically cover your tracks, because before, as a trucker, I only dealt with one opposition, or one enemy, so to speak, the broker. right? I was booking loads through a broker. So me as a trucker, I only dealt with a broker. But now the broker has to deal with shippers, and he or she has to deal with carriers, right? So now, kind of like a real estate deal, right? And just in case somebody doesn't know how it works, so basically a broker, it's kind of like wholesale retail kind of deal, right? So let's say you buy this desk in China, wholesale, you buy like 20 desks, I don't know, for $100, and then you resell them for whatever you can get. Like in my case, I paid 350 bucks Canadian for this. And so the broker is looking for shippers, people that have freight, and then when the shipper gives him the description of the load, date, origin, destination, dimensions, right? So he finds carriers either through his own contacts or through a load board, and of course he gives carriers less money than what he got from the shipper, because that's the whole idea of the business, right? You are an intermediary, so kind of like real estate, right? So like I know in real estate, usually there's two agents, right? Like there's a seller's agent and there's a buyer's agent, and typical commission is 6%. So they split it in two. But important thing about being an agent is that, let's say you're moving something that pays $10,000, right? And you quoted the carrier, I don't know, let's say $9,000, right? So there's a margin of 1,000 bucks, but that margin goes to the broker you work for, right? So me as an agent, I have an agreement with the broker. So same as with real estate. So the 3%, it does not go to that agent who sold me the apartment. It goes to his brokerage, and then the brokerage gives him whatever they agreed on. I don't know, 40, 50%, you know. And so it's the same deal here. And that's why I don't want to deal with cheap loads. I want to specialize in the same stuff I did as a trucker. So basically equipment and machinery, something that pays, you know, at least decent, because then your margin can be higher. Not like, I don't want to spend half a day and make like 20 bucks, you know. But I'm not greedy. All I need is, I still have some money coming in from YouTube. All I need is, you know, 2 or 3 grand a month, you know, so I can afford my Hellcat. And most importantly, the insurance on the Hellcat. I still have to figure out how much that is, because it'll be awful if they say something like 500 bucks a month or $600, right? Because right now on the Charger it was 207 Canadian. So I hope it doesn't triple. But yeah, as soon as I put it in the storage, I'm gonna tell the insurance company just reduce the coverage to like fire and theft, you know, because I'm not going to be driving it. But then after the snow is off, I'm going to call them again. I'll say, okay, let's reinstate the insurance to the full power. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing. So most of the time I'll be behind the computer, dealing with shippers, dealing with carriers, and trying to get some money from these two parties. But again, I want to be fair, since, you know, as a trucker, I understand this, how carriers feel, and I just hope that my knowledge, the knowledge I gained, especially after I became independent in 2017, I hope that this knowledge will come in handy, you know, all these axle weights, permits, what kind of trailers you need, you know, limitations on dimensions, how tall you can be, let's say, when you go into New Jersey or something, right? And I still have that website where I can estimate the cost of permits. I cancel it, but now I'm gonna once I start working, I'm gonna reactivate it, so I can always, because, you know, quite often brokers, when I was dealing with them, right, so very often they would give me super low rates. And I would ask him, like, do you guys have an idea of what permits, like what is your budget for permits? And 9 out of 10 they would say, well, that's your deal as a carrier, so you should know your cost of permits, and then you tell us how much it is. And let's say there was a load from Toronto to Baltimore for a 9-axle, where I know with a Jeep and booster it'll be like 3,000 US in permits and pilots. Oh, and I still have my little book there that tells me when you need pilots, after what dimensions or weights, in what state, so I know this, I know what it costs, I know the cost of permits, like roughly, and pilots, whereas most brokers have no clue, right? And so, for example, there was a load, right, Toronto to Baltimore, and I remember kind of like laughing at the guy because they were offering $6,000 US, but it's like 110,000 pounds. And I said, do you guys realize that it'll cost 3,000 just in permits and pilots? Well, that's all we got. So basically they have no idea of the cost of permits and pilots, and so they quote to the shipper a very low rate since they have no clue, right? And then they try to find a carrier, and now what? The carrier has to pay all this and just end up with a couple of bucks, So I think in my case, I think it's very helpful that actually I do know this. I do know the costs involved, especially with heavy machinery and equipment. So I think I can reason with the shipper that no, you cannot move this for, let's say, $5 a mile, because it'll cost $3 in permits and tolls and pilots, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I feel optimistic. So we're gonna start shortly. Maybe next week already. Well, the guy gave me this little exercise, right, with that machine from California. So I might approach more people over the weekend, or maybe Monday, to see if anybody's interested. But yeah, this is just not a very good load. Super light loads in California, where nobody wants to go, requires a bond that not everybody has or is willing to pay the fee, like $450 US for a bond, and delivers in Canada, whereas most Americans don't want to go. So that's it. That's my rant for today. So today is Friday. Tomorrow I'm gonna, if the weather's good, I'm gonna go to one of the parks, one of those 10 places for wildlife photography, and try to see if I can find any wildlife with my Z9. Over and out. Thanks for watching.